thanks so much for speaking to me, Clay. I've been wanting to speak to you for so long, and so it's a real pleasure to get to chat to you finally.
No, it's great to be able to do it. I'm coming in. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you
Uh
can hear me
where
okay?
where where are you holidaying?
Well, I actually live in Bilbao in the north of Spain. I've been here for the past 24, 25 years.
Oh
Originally,
wow.
I'm originally from the north near Manchester in the UK, but I came over here when I was about 21, 22. I came over to
Wow.
Bilbao. So I've just been down to Denia down south, not far from Alicante in Spain. And I've just come back now. We've got like a small house in the village by the sea, not far from
Yeah,
Bilbao. So
man.
it's near home,
You're
but on holiday.
I'm a little envious. So sounds beautiful.
No, it's great. Yeah. And there's a great I don't know if you've ever been to Spain, but there's some really great film festivals over here in Bilbao. There's a really, really great one called Fant Festival with
Oh
some
wow.
great movies that come over here. Yeah.
Um they just announced part of the my kind of
Oh,
scatterbrained is they just
I
announced
know
the
what you're gonna say. No, Fantastic Fest.
yeah, did
I
you
literally just got an email from Fantastic Fest now. Yeah, telling me the films that have been picked up. So congratulations on that. That you must be so buzzing
yeah.
about that right now. Yeah.
It's it's very, very exciting. I hope, I'm just trying to figure out if I can get my ass to get over there to
You
see it
need to.
because
You need to. No, you need to. I mean, I've never been to Fantastic Fest, but that's one of the festivals that I need to go. Everyone says it's the festival to go to. Yeah.
yeah, it seems like a opportunity to I can't pass up. Unfortunately, it means I might have to renege on a other commitment of another literary thing, which is, a wonderful problem to have, but I still feel pretty bad that I might have to
Yeah.
cancel
I mean,
something else.
talking of wonderful problems to have. I mean, you just seem to be the person who has the most wonderful problems going on all the time because you are the kind of like the blurber for every single horror book that comes out of late. Not just that, but you're such a prolific writer as well. You've got so many books coming out yourself, comics, and all these different things. How the heck do you manage to fit it all in?
Uh, Poorly, to be honest. I mean, the blurbing's fun, and I'm waiting for somebody to call me out on it. But frankly, I feel as if blurbing is fun because you get to read the book before anybody else does. And that I always feel like there's a certain level of like, I get excited about that.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know. I have these traumatic memories of like when I was first getting published, and
Sure.
nobody would blurb me. Like I
Mhm.
got rejected by everyone. My first book had zero blurbs because nobody was willing to take a chance, and it was the lowest feeling. like
Yeah.
I just felt awful, and I remember then as a, you know, basically a kid saying, I never want anyone else to feel this feeling of like being rejected or like having a door closed on them. So if anyone asks me to blurb them, I'm going to do it, damn it. And I've been mostly able to keep that promise. It's getting harder in like
Because you're like the go-to guy. You know? Like I said, you're
yeah.
on virtually every single book right now. Yeah.
I'm the village bicycle for blurbs. Like it's
Yeah.
absurd. Um, and I do feel like a lot of people are kind of like cagey about blurbing, and I shouldn't be saying any of this because it's gonna come back to bite me in the butt. But like I everybody knows that blurbs are transactional and like blurbs are favors and blurbs are like I believe that like if I can cheerlead somebody else and their work, I'm gonna just cheerlead. Like I don't know. There's value to it and I enjoy doing it. I don't get to read for pleasure anymore, which sucks.
Yeah.
But that's the payoff, the whatever the word is, the compromise.
Mm.
Uh, it is just so rare for me to be like, and this book is for me.
Yeah. No, no, that really, I know what you mean. I mean, I don't review too many books, but I do review quite a few films. So
Yeah.
yesterday I went with my son to watch Weapons, and I didn't have to
Yeah.
review it or anything, and I enjoyed the heck out. It was so good, but I was able to just sit there and not think about the camera angle, the
Yeah.
score. I just enjoyed everything, and it was brilliant.
Isn't it funny how like at a certain point you do have to kind of like turn off your head and like just like it's like, oh yes, this is I enjoy this. Like I forget like sometimes I forget that it's like, oh yeah, like I want to do this. This is the happy stuff. Um but it is amazing how like certain I mean, and that's the other thing with like both with films and books, like if you discover, like not discover, but if you find something before the rest of the world does, you get to be the person who says like, "Hey, like I just read this thing and it's coming out next year and it is wild." And I don't know, like you, you know, social media and just the world we live on the internet, like I just want it to be a place of positivity and wanting to like use it to kind of talk about things that I enjoy, and I enjoy books.
Mhm. And
So
I mean,
yeah,
also, I saw, was it Stoker Con that was this year? You were with loads of people there this year.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
mean, that you could just see that everyone just loves each other. There's no kind of competition, and there is competition, but it's kind of the healthiest competition there is, and everyone's trying to help each other there. And
yeah,
it's just so nice, and that's the horror community.
yeah. I hope so. I really want that to be true. I think that like we're all like I think when we go home and we're kind of alone, there's like either whether it's imposter syndrome or just like there's always the kind of critical uh there's just that kind of inner critic that just kind of
Yeah.
like tamps you down and you want to believe that like it's a moments like StokerCon where it's like everybody's together that you feel like, oh, like we're all in this together, and regardless of awards or the more competitive edge to it, I don't know, like it just doesn't matter. I just got nominated for the first time this last year, so like it's all new to me. So kind of going in feels a little bit like, who the heck am I?
Yeah. But no, I mean, going back to it, it looks like you had a fantastic time. I know that everyone was singing karaoke. I've
Yeah.
never seen anyone go so get into those roles so much. Especially, was it Rachel Harrison? Was the first one? She's
Yeah.
the first one on stage, and she down on her knees singing. And then I saw you later, and I think you dressed up as a chair and had
Yeah.
a jump
Yeah.
out of the skin. All kinds of
Um,
stuff went on there. Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. Like it is funny how at the end of the day, well, I don't know, what am I going to say? Yes, we want to have fun. And um I'm using social media to just kind of show what a goofball I am. So dressing up as chairs or doing silly things like it that is a lot easier for me than say buy my book
yeah.
or which we all have to do.
Mhm.
uh but if I hear myself say buy my book one more time, I think I'm gonna
Yeah,
you
no,
know
from watching your videos, I can tell when you do actually stand in front of the camera and say, "Hi, I'm Clay. I've got this new book." You kind of sense that you prefer to just be yourself and have fun, and yeah, because it's so much easier. I'm the same. I can't speak that directly to a camera. I just can't do it. It's really
yeah,
difficult for me. Yeah,
it's so uh, I mean, I don't know, it's silly, but like so much kind of weight is put on the writer's shoulders these days to promote and kind of get their work out there. And it's such a din on social media that most days I just kind of sit back and I'm like, does any of this matter? Does any of this like register with anybody? Am I talking to the same five people over and over again? And you know, if it's a video asking people to buy a book, I'm going to be like, I'm just going to no bells and whistles. Let's just like strip it down. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, we're just trying to get people to pay attention to us. And um, I don't know if I've figured it out, but yeah. I'm
Mm.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
So I mean, one thing that I wanted to talk about, obviously, when you start kind of selling the book, promoting the book quite a while beforehand, because pre-orders, people might not realize that. I don't think they seem to realize that. That is so damned important. I was speaking to Keith Ross on the other day, and he's got like his next possible contract coming up, and he
Yeah.
said that was really dependent on the sales of this new book, really dependent on the pre-sales. So
Yes.
I mean, imagine that's the same for you. No, that's something that's so important that people don't seem to realize now, right?
It's true. And I don't know if I do as good of a job kind of advocating for pre-sales as I should. If I was smarter, I would. Um, but yeah, at the end, that's the kind of determining factor of like, are we going to keep you around for another book or two? Are we going to, you know, it it's not even the day of or the week of anymore. It's everything that kind of leads up to the day or leads up to that first week. And you know, you gotta bang that drum at such a early stage in the process that if you're not promoting a book a year out, you're in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. Talking off the book, I mean, so the main book that I want to talk about obviously is A Quiet Taste. You've got quite a few on the horizon, but
Yeah.
specifically, I want to talk to you about A Quiet Taste. So, first of all, congratulations on it. I loved it. It's such a mix of things. I'm quite
Yeah.
curious. I'm quite curious. I mean, because this is kind of an anthology of very different genres, different types of stories. I'm quite curious how you approach when you release a novel, a novella, or an anthology. Because I imagine a novel and a novella is very kind of specifically you sit down and this is what you want to write. Maybe some of them come out of some of your short stories. So,
Yeah.
but I'm quite curious how you decide about the anthologies that you release. Is it just this kind of once you've got enough content or enough specific content that you think are kind of thematically um, close
You
enough
know,
together to warrant an anthology? How do you go about releasing? How do you decide on which kind of anthology you'd release?
yeah. I mean, with Acquired Taste, it's interesting because the stories kind of start. This is Acquired Taste is my third collection, and the beginning was 2017 to like 2023, 24 maybe. So that's almost 10 years, not really, but you know, at least 7 or 8. And the cutoff wasn't so much at no point was anybody like, you know what we need right now? The world needs another collection
Uh,
of short stories from
yeah.
um but I'd been kind of forging this wonderful relationship with Titan, and the conversations with my editor over there, Daniel Carpenter. uh I've been really fortunate to kind of get stories into anthologies or literary journals, magazines, and I was sitting on a chunk, like upwards to like, God, I can't even remember how many, but like maybe 30 or 40 or more over the course of like however many years, 5, 10 years. And I was talking to Daniel about it, and I was like, do you guys ever do short story collections? And he's like, yeah. And um, for for us, it was less of a like, now's the time, as much as it was just kind of like looking at what was available of my stuff and kind of making the determination of whether it felt like a whole. Um, I love mixtapes. Like I make mixed,
Right.
I remember making mixtapes
No, well, today's
as a kid.
playlists. No, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, but so much of it, of making a mix, is, does it complete itself? Like, is it its own kind of entity?
Yeah.
And do the songs kind of feed and communicate with one another? And that joy of like creating a tapestry of stories, much like a mixtape, was really important. Because like if there wasn't enough, or if it didn't feel like it cohered, I don't think Daniel and Titan would have been interested.
Mhm.
They would have said, "Let's wait 5 more years, or let's wait until
Yeah.
uh, they're not the preciousness of it is that we're not. There's no mandate to it. It's like until the mix is ready, we'll wait. And the time was nigh, which was great. Um, and the difference of like, I don't know if I know at this point what makes for a suitable release schedule, um, because I'm flooding the market for better or for worse. Um, but I think my theory, ill-advised as it is like, if the opportunity is there, I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to ride the wave for as long as I can, because the wave inevitably will peter out, and I just want to to know that I kind of took advantage of every opportunity that came my way. So yeah.
Mhm. Brilliant, brilliant. So, I mean, talking that, I don't want to specifically talk about specific stories because that's kind of spoiling the book. But
Hmm.
what I do want to do is I picked up on a few kind of thematic
Yeah,
things that you addressed in the book. I kind of just wanted to ask you a little bit about those and where the genesis, the idea to kind of bring those social commentaries into your stories
totally.
came from. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of it, a lot of what I picked up mainly was the fact just how impressionable we all are by certain kind of the media, art, all these different types of things. That was kind of almost present in pretty much every story that you had there. Baby carrots, maybe
Yeah.
not so, but the rest of the stuff, yeah. And so I was quite curious. I mean, the first one of the early stories, it talks about kind of the insidious rise of the comic books and how kind
Hmm.
of religion was very much against these kind of comic books. So I was quite curious. Was that because I know that you have been involved in comic series and comic books previously yourself? I was
Yeah.
quite curious, as growing up as a kid, were you an avid comic reader, and did you kind of get this backlash from maybe your parents or maybe from religious characters that kind of told you mustn't read this, Clay, you need to read something else? And was
Yeah.
that maybe kind of the genesis for the story?
In all honesty, no. I mean, my family was pretty hands off when it came to the material that I was reading. Uh, I wouldn't say that I was like a dyed in the wool comic. I wasn't an avid reader. I read comics, like I read Batman, God, I read Punisher. I read like uh but I collected to the extent that like I had maybe a box, like a crate, not like multiple crates. Like I wasn't
Yeah,
like it wasn't every Wednesday I would go to the comic book store. But I amassed a collection over time, and which kind of segued into like uh horror comics. And like I found it was so strange, like like adaptations of films, like there was like a segue into like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Like they did like a comic adaptation of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like Leatherface Chainsaw Massacre 3. And like such a strange comic to find. And you know, I was a kid, and that was what I kind of gravitated towards. And you know, whether my parents, I don't think my family knew what I was reading, to be honest. Like I was being a little covert about it. Um, but that story in particular, Cyan, Magenta, Yellow, and Key, was inspired by, there's this great book, and I'm going to totally butcher it. I think it's called The 10 Cent Plague, and it's a nonfiction book. Absolutely blanking on the author of it, but it speaks specifically to the like the moment in time here in the States where uh, comics were considered to be this, insidious presence in children's lives. And this is talking like the 50s, 60s, pre-code, when horror comics in particular were on the rise in publishing. And the kind of moral question of like, is this sound for our children to be reading? So things like Creepshow, EC Comics, um, Tales from the Crypt, like those were like those were the books that were getting burned in the pyres in church parking lots. And I just remember reading about that and being fascinated by it and thinking like, well, what if there was something inside one of those tales from the crypts that, you know, once burned, it was released, and yeah, it for me, more often than not, it's not even so much kind of coming from a place of personal history as much as
Mhm.
kind of reading a newspaper article or reading a nonfiction book and feeling so fascinated and kind of like uh, curious about like what is the narrative version of this? Like what's the story in here that I can tell, and kind of just riffing, just going on a spin because
Mhm.
they're beholden to history where I'm not, and I can just kind of like spin my own yarn and have fun with it.
Mhm. Talking of history, there's a later story on which you talk about kind of people and teachers kind of turning their back on heritage. Uh, Keep It Civil was the name of the story. That one,
Oh yeah, yeah,
which is kind of related in a way. I was quite curious if that was something that you had today specifically about education and kind of losing our heritage through education. It also felt kind of related also to Spew of News, another story that kind of we're
yeah,
losing our way because of what we're taught, what the news we read, and those kind of things. Like we were losing our way because of who we're listening to, like at school and kind of through the news and
yeah.
those kind of things.
Well, it's funny because both Spew of News and Keep It Civil are stories that kind of focus on this shift in ideology and how here in the States, there's this kind of schisming effect of, you know, things are very polarized here in America, and you know, there's a pretty kind of binary way of thinking of kind of right or left, and those that kind of schism has kind of created a bit of a gap in information and where one gets their information. And Keep It Civil is kind of on one end of that, where it's speaking specifically to this idea of a and again that's kind of based on an event that happened here in the States of like, you know, during the Black Lives Matter movement, um, you know, a certain fraction of people in the South started standing guard at the statues of Civil War generals under the pretense of protecting the statues themselves. That like that these statues that were honoring, you know, soldiers who fought in a battle in the Civil War, and you know the kind of fraught nature of that kind of conversation, and these these particular people kind of brought it upon themselves to protect these statues and the ideologies behind the men that were on those pedestals. And I just found it really interesting, like what would that who is someone that feels galvanized to do that, and you know, where does that stem from, and kind of looking at it from a supernatural bent, like what if the person who is embodied in that statue has a their own kind of say in the matter, and you know that's where that story goes.
Hmm.
And Spew the News is a very kind of cheeky, on the nose riff on the idea of like, you know, we're shifting in our ideologies and where we're getting our information. So what if there was a cosmic bent to it of something that goes even more creepy and unnerving and turns us all into monsters, slimy, slimy
Yeah.
news monsters.
No, I mean, Spew the News really resonated with me. Not so much because of the news per se, but because I've lived away from England for the last 30 years.
Yeah,
My parents have the culture, the news, everything's been completely different to what I've experienced for the past 30 years. So each time I see them, which isn't it's sadly not that often, these gaps that you said the characters feel between their parents, it just felt so much my life. And it
yeah,
just really resonated with me, that story. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's a global thing right now, right? Like that, you know, generationally speaking, uh, the gap is widening between like who we are, what we believe in, where we're getting information from, and you can be standing right next to somebody and someone you love, and they could exist in a completely different news source,
Mhm.
and that bubble in of itself just feels, I don't know, it's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's an island, but I mean, like just last week, we were at all the in-laws, and everybody was sat around the lunch table, and it's just amazing how different people are. Even just some very simple conversations, just how
Yeah,
different points of views they have, just because they've kind of lived in a different family unit and on a different part of the world. It's crazy. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
a lot more different than 20, 30 years ago. Yeah,
yeah.
crazy. Uh-huh. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about. I know that you think very much about books and movies as being safe spaces, which a lot of people don't agree with. This is kind
Hmm.
of it's a one of those topics that a lot of people they always like to say violence. You can't watch violence, like violence breeds violence, all these kind of things. But I think it was a recent interview you did for a magazine that you posted on Instagram. I saw that you read that books serve as a safe space, and a kind of a safety net, and it's really good because you can articulate current fears, kind of articulate them so that readers can face them in a kind of a safe space,
Yeah,
which is I thought was a much better way of kind of anyone who's saying that violence breeds violence. The best way to put it is a cinema or a book sat in your living room reading a book. That couldn't be a better place. And at the end of the day, it's kind of like classical psychological exposure theory. It's nothing like
yeah,
feeding them violence to make them violent. It's exactly the opposite. So I really
yeah,
love that you approach horror like that.
yeah. I mean, I find as the author of these pieces that I'm kind of exorcising personal fears that I have. And what I find on the kind of other side of that is that readers tend to either connect to those fears and want to kind of relinquish them as well. So, in a strange way, there's a bit of kind of communication there, or it's like a call and response, where by letting go of my fears onto the page, it allows a reader to let go of that same fear if they have it, uh, by reading it. And I don't know, like that give and take to me feels very valuable.
Mhm. No, definitely, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. And also, the again, you going back to the speed of news. I forgot to ask you actually, was that actually an early version of "Wake Up and Open Your Eyes," or was that just something completely different? Because it felt thematically very similar.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it did when I started, I had written Spear the News years ago, and it was in an anthology called Found Footage, a found footage anthology called Found. And when I started working on Wake Up and Open Your Eyes, which was like a year or two late after the fact, uh, um, I had focused so much on the middle section of that book, which was this nuclear family of four kind of like succumbing to demonic possession. And my editors kind of early on in the process were like, this feels very suffocating. Like we need a more global view. We need to get out of this house. We need to see more. And they wanted me to kind of create a better off ramp into the narrative. And I was thinking about it and thinking about it, and I was like, well, I've kind of already done something sort of like that. And it's this short story that I wrote. So I could basically cannibalize that and use, kind of expand upon it because Spew the News is like maybe 10 pages. And the beginning of Wake Up and Open Your Eyes, the first section is I think like 80-ish pages. So it was just me kind of like using the spew of the news as a kind of foundation to crack the narrative open a little bit more, to explore it a little bit further, go further with it. And yeah, so um, it was after the fact, but it was still based upon, if that makes any sense.
Mhm. Another story that I do want to touch on slightly because, like I said, I went to see Weapons in the theater yesterday. And it wasn't the
Yeah.
best experience because of stuff that you say in one of the stories here. What was the name of the story? Now, Bring a Baby to the Theater or something. I can't remember the name now.
Who brings a baby?
Who Brings a Baby to the Theater? And it was like,
Yeah.
obviously there wasn't a baby in the theater, but they were pretty young kids, and they're all there with their telephones on
Uh,
all the way through and all that kind of
oh
thing.
no.
I still managed to enjoy it, but I just read this story just before I went in. And I was like, Clay is so right. This just, but it says it says in the story, it says that the theaters used to be a sacred place, and they really were a sacred place.
Yeah.
So I'm just quite curious. Do you go to the cinema often, or do these things kind of put you off from going to the cinema?
Oh, I go all the damn time. I mean, I love
Because
movies.
because I think you get invited to quite a few previews and things like that. No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's the only place where I go where I still kind of follow the rules, no phones, no
One of the
second
few.
screens.
Yeah. One of the
Yeah.
rare breed. Yeah.
Um, and spew, I'm sorry, not spew the news, but Who Brings the Baby is my kind of cheeky, like, I'm not that guy. The narrator in that is just so kind of snooty and so like, ugh,
Yeah.
but I have that feeling of like wanting to respect film and the film going experience of like the lights go down, it's a communal experience. We're all kind of focusing on this story that's kind of unfolding on the big screen. um, and I've been to plenty of movies where there have been screaming babies, where I personally have that feeling of like, oh my God, it's like 9 o'clock on a Friday night and there's this baby here in this horror movie. And just being like, yeesh. Um, and so Who Brings the Baby is just that kind of that seed of a feeling that I've had and just kind of multiplying it, but and exaggerating it to infinity.
I mean, in that story, you did actually mention that baby would need psychiatric help later on in life. I guess that was kind of ironic because I imagine you kind of lived. I mean, you said you read comics quite young, now these quite violent comics when you're young. I
Yeah.
imagine that's completely the opposite of what you think, no?
I mean, I don't think. I'm one of these people that like imbibed media at such an early age that I should not have, like, whether it was film, comics, books. Like, I was reading Stephen King in the fifth grade. I was watching Halloween, and when I was 6, I was reading, and what that did to me, it kind of remains to be seen. But here I am, decades later, like, so maybe I should be careful of what I advocate for. But like, I I I find horror to be such a safe place to kind of like speak to these fears that we all have. And the world itself is just, increasingly a more and more frightening place that I don't know, like, horror on the page or horror in the theater is such an escape and a respite to the real world horrors that you know, the tables have turned a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah, that was really why that was one of the reasons why I really enjoyed Weapons yesterday because it was like the adults were like, "What the hell is going on with the kids?" And it just felt so. There's nothing that's going on right now, but it just felt so much like the kids are much more relaxed than the adults are right now because the
Yeah.
adults are the ones that really don't know what the hell is going on in the world.
Totally.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So listen, I don't want to keep you too long, but I know you still got quite a few things on the go. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you're one of the most prolific guys going. So first of all, can you tell us a little bit about how you're going to promote this? I read that you're going to be touring a little bit, and there was even on the old Instagram post it said you've got to bring your own baby carrots. What's all that about?
I'm going to be doing I'm really excited. There's going to be a book launch at there's this brand new brick and mortar bookstore here in New York that's opening up, and I get to be their very, very first event, which I'm just such an honor, so excited. It's going to be, and like, I love doing readings and doing live events because, and the short stories are kind of primed for this type of
Yeah.
event where I just want to have stupid fun. um Life is short, I'm gonna die. I just want to, like, anyone who wants to come to a book event is, I think we're all kind of tired of those kind of dry, more literary minded
Mhm.
events where I just want to have fun. And the inner Gallagher in me uh, like just wants to make some sort of spectacle out of it. So yeah, there may be baby carrots. There may be kind of like little bells and whistles and snacks and but it's like I am the show. I'll go where anybody wants me to go, and anybody who wants to come and watch me make a fool out of myself will have a fun time.
Oh, that sounds brilliant. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, very briefly, and another something that you've released recently that I wanted to go back to because I said that you worked in comic books
Yeah.
before. You've just recently released Seance in the Asylum, which I know you are
Yeah.
so happy about. I mean, you were showing pictures from it and things. I mean, how did that come about? And can you tell us a
I
little bit about that? People who haven't heard of that, because that
yeah.
kind of went under the radar a little bit. Is it easy to get hold of now? How can we get hold of that one? Because I've not been able to get hold of it over here.
Well, the trade paperback it's out there in the world now. So you
Mhm.
can either get it digitally or, in theory, all kind of together. It's a 4-issue miniseries. Dark Horse Comics put it out. And it's basically like a gothic historical horror period piece that I have been dying to write for years now, years. And Dark Horse was willing to kind of take a chance on it. And it's basically kind of like all of these pet obsessions that I have with like spiritualism and, speaking specifically to Civil War era spiritualism, where, the Fox sisters and seances and this idea of being able to kind of communicate with the other side. um, these are all things that I've just completely obsessed over, to the extent where like even in an Acquired Taste there's a story about the Fox sisters who
Yes.
were the kind of preeminent purveyors of spiritualism and being able to host seances and contacting the dead. um, but yeah, Seance in the Asylum is basically my kind of furthering of these obsessions, in a visual medium, because I feel like that story could only be told in comics. So yeah, 4 issues all gathered in one. The artwork is by Leonardo Grassi. It's beautiful. Yeah, I love it. So happy.
Mhm. I mean, you said that the artwork is by Leonardo Grassi. I'm quite curious. I love asking authors about their own artwork on the covers,
Yeah.
how involved they are. Some people are completely not involved at all, and a lot of people are kind of very involved or even do it themselves. I'm quite curious, how hands-on are you when it comes to the artwork on your books?
Um, Hands on to the extent that I'm as much as I'm allowed to. Like I usually have what's kind of called consultation rights. So the publisher will usually be like, "Hey, here's what we're thinking. Do you have any feedback? What are your thoughts?" And I mean, I've been very lucky where I've had some amazing covers, and so uh, it's very rare for me to even have feedback to offer, because usually they hit it out of the park. But
Mhm.
you know, I've never had to raise a stink, so I'm really fortunate about that. But usually it's like the publisher saying, "This is what we're thinking. What do you think?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, that looks great." And then they'll be like, "Thumbs up."
Mhm. Well, I mean, one of my favorite covers is Ghost Eaters. It's just
Oh my
well,
God.
it's fantastic.
It's
Uh,
beautiful. I
yeah,
love that cover.
yeah,
That's the cover that, like, to this day, that's the benchmark as far as I'm
yeah.
concerned.
That was the first book that I read this year.
Oh
Um,
yeah?
and so I was so happy to read to find out that it's going to be made into a film, and not just any old film with any old director, but I mean you've got Maggie Levin, and then it's produced by Scott Derrickson. I
I
mean you
know.
can't. I can't wait to see what they do with that.
Oh my God. I need to be careful, because it's Hollywood, and there's always a possibility that it all goes away, that it collapses, you
Sure.
know. So, uh, you know, I am cautiously optimistic. I have nothing but hope. Uh, but it's like fingers crossed, toes crossed, breath held. Um, but with that team, it would be, oh my God, it's such a dream come true. So,
Wow.
you
I mean,
know,
how far in the process is everything gone now? Have you
pretty,
spoken to them?
it's pretty early days. I've I've had a lot of meetings with Maggie, who's amazing, amazing. And yeah, you know, whatever she wants to do, I'm gonna just follow her into the breach. You know,
Mhm.
it's I just feel when you have somebody who believes in the material, like the story, and wants to kind of push it further, like yeah, I feel
Yeah, I mean,
very
I'm
blessed.
guessing you're one of those authors, a bit like Stephen King, that if someone takes the rights to one of his books, he kind of lets them go off and do what they want to do with it and
Yeah, I
doesn't
mean,
really
like
say anything about it.
I'm I'm precious to the material to the extent that like I want I want the best version of the movie possible, but at the end of the day, it's an adaptation, it's interpretation, and you know, I always feel like more often than not, writers they're either in the way of the adaptation or
Right.
they help. And I feel like the best way that I can help is to support Maggie or whoever the adapter is to tell the story that they want to tell. And
Mhm.
the ultimately what I can say is the book isn't going to get changed. The book is there. It's never going to go away. Like it exists. It doesn't exist in a vacuum. Like anyone who wants to like find the source material can find the source material. I
Yeah.
told the story the way that I wanted to tell the story. And now that it's kind of hitting this new evolutionary phase in its story, it's going to grow into something completely different. And but one doesn't negate the other. It doesn't, the book will be there on the shelf for anyone who wants to find
No, I mean, well, fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything crossed that it comes to
it.
fruition. But I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, I love that book so much because it's one of the few books that I remember really making me feel so uneasy and almost dirty in a way. I had to go for a shower after because it just the constant unease throughout the book really, really works so well. And I hope they managed to nail that in the film with it
Oh,
because
that's
that's what
amazing.
was so powerful from that book. Yeah, definitely.
Your lips to Hollywood's ears, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. But let's so just to finish off then. I mean, you've got all of that stuff going on the back burner, but then in November you've got Shiny Happy People, April Bodies at
Yeah.
Work, and then next year Devil Inside. So
Yeah.
I don't want to ask you about all of that because that's just too much. But can you tell us about the next thing you've got coming out, which is in November, I think it is Shiny Happy People, which is a YA sci-fi horror, no?
Yeah. They let me write a YA book. Like
Is this
who
your
isn't that
first
right?
YA book?
Yes. I've written middle grade, which is even younger, if you can believe it. But this is the first time writing specifically with a teen readership in mind. And it was such a blast. It's so much fun. And I think the one of the kind of key determining factors of doing it was like, you know what? I'm just gonna, for me as the writer, I want to have nothing but fun throughout the like, you know, I get so tied up and kind of like when I write adult novels for adults, like it's always like, it's like doing these kind of tragic kind of like, oh, woe is me, like the poor poet, like, like just kind of like fawning. Um, but with this, it was such a like, I'm just gonna have a lark. Like this is gonna be such a blast. And like I think that aura of fun has kind of somehow imbued itself into the text itself. And like, I don't know, people seem to like it, which is such a like pleasant, like happy surprise. So yeah, it's such a lark. I
I
feel
mean,
like it's gonna be fun.
you said you had so much fun with it, but at the same time, because it is for a younger audience, there's obviously going to be some kind of limits. Did those limits kind of prevent you in any way from not having this lark that you wanted to have?
It's funny because like at the end of the day, like the things that one would do, like whenever I was like, should I hold back? Like my editor or the people I was working with are like, no, go for it. It's fine. And like, you know, it's pleasantly surprising how little I had to hold back. And I'm I was really like, for me, I was like, should I not do this? Should I be, And they're like, no, no, no. And I was like, okay, well, if you're giving me permission, and so yeah, at the end of the day, like, it blame my publisher because they told me I could get away with it.
Mhm. Brilliant, man. I blame your publisher then. Brilliant. Listen, Clay, thank you so, so much for your time. It's been so, so nice to speak to you. Been
No,
wanting to
thank
speak
you,
to you
man.
for years.
Well,
I wish,
I'm always
sorry?
here. I'm
Hey?
always here.
Yeah. Well, you've got so much stuff coming up. So, yeah, I hope to get to speak to you again sometime soon. I wish you the best of luck with every single thing that you've got going on right now. Wish you the best of luck with the new book,
Thank you,
Acquired
man.
Taste, and the tour, and baby
Yeah.
carrots that you take
Yeah,
with
the
you.
baby carrots. Bring out your baby carrots.
And I hope to speak to you sometime soon. And I'll let you know when this interview goes live. And I hope to speak sometime really soon.
Please do, please do.
All
I'll
right. Thank you
talk to you
so
later,
much
man.
again. It's been great to speak to you. All right.
Take
Take
care.
care. Bye, Clay.
Bye.